Hello, and welcome to another edition of Banana Island Living podcast. Today we're going to the Niger Delta. Now, I don't know about you, but I always have an awful lot of angst, and my body sort of tenses when I hear Niger Delta because you don't hear good things about it. And when I came across my guest today and the amazing work they're doing in the Niger Delta, I thought, I have to have him on. He needs to tell us what's actually happening. It's, apart from the fact that it's a vital part of our economy, it's just good to know there's something really, really good is happening there. So let me introduce Dr. Akala first. But before we start, before we do anything else, can you make sure you subscribe to our podcast and share it with your friends and give us a good rating? Now, my guest today is Dr. Dara Akala. He's the executive director of the Foundation for Partnership Initiatives in the Niger Delta, called PIND for short. Now, PIND is a Chevron-funded corporate social enterprise, and Dara is a development economist with over 40 years of multi-layered experience across national, regional, and private voluntary institutions in Nigeria, Central and East Africa, as well as the UK. Dr. Dara Akala, hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I was just so happy and relieved to know that incredible things have been happening in the Niger Delta. And it's gone quite quiet around there, which is a good thing. I mean, no news is good news. But can you just tell me, what is PIND doing in the Niger Delta that you think is directly making life better for the people there? I mean, what exactly are you doing?
All right, then. Thanks, Shade. As you rightly pointed out, the Niger Delta region used to be regarded as a conflict corridor of Nigeria. But
you mean it's not anymore? Is it still?
It is. It has come a long way since that identity, or that label was put on it.
Right.
And thanks to the PIN Foundation for its positive contributions to the situation that we are currently experiencing in that part of the country. In specific terms, PIN is fostering economic prosperity, peace and stability, and we're building partnerships with private and public sector players to underpin long-term sustainable development for the region. And in order to tackle the root causes of poverty and conflict in the region, in the first almost 10 years of our existence, we structured our programs into 4 pillars, namely economic development, peace building, capacity building, and analysis and advocacy. But since 2020, as a result of our stakeholder feedback and reduced funding from Chevron, we have reconfigured these programs into 2 main pillars of economic development and peace building. And then we have a general enabling program that comprises capacity building, advocacy, communications, and business development. So that's what PIND is doing in the Niger Delta region.
Now, I have some friends in Shell, and one of the issues that they said they had was really gaining the trust of the community. Well, there was a lack of trust on both sides, let's put it that way. And if they did something for one community or for one place, and then the other people would say, oh, you haven't done for us. How have you gained the trust of the people there? How has PIND gained the trust of the communities?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. You know that people will always respect institutions that treat them with a bit of respect. So, how we have gained the trust of the people of the Niger Delta region is by treating them with a lot of respect, right? So, when we say that we will do something, right, we'll always do it. And you see, the issue of mistrust arose from the very many broken promises to the people of the Niger Delta region. Several agencies have promised them lots of things that they failed to deliver on, But in our case, When we say we'll do something, we always do it. And simple things like, getting them together for meetings, we always make sure that we are there on time. That's the respect element I was talking about. And
Yeah, no big man keeping everybody waiting. I
waiting,
mean,
that's very, very, very important. But when we started, I must confess that there was a huge suspicion about who we are and what we stand for.
Absolutely. Even I was suspicious when I heard about an NGO in the Niger Delta.
Yeah, and rightly so, because you can't blame them for the multitude of broken promises and dashed hopes. But with us, PIN Foundation, that's consistent in our messaging, especially regarding our implementation approach. And as I said, we treat people with great respect. And when we say we are meeting, we arrive promptly. And they also would like to make the point to the people that we are partners. Which is why we don't refer to anyone as project beneficiaries, but we have project participants. So it's about partnership,
Yeah.
And with a partnership, all parties have something to offer. So that's why we're different, and that's how we've come to gain the trust of the people.
Well, that's such a big thing. I mean, as someone said, big men show power by keeping you waiting.
Yeah.
So if you don't keep them waiting, at least they know, okay, this guy has been respectful.
Absolutely. And we're professional about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got to be.
For sure.
Can you tell me what is happening in Ogoniland at the moment? I mean, that is one thing that really always sets the news cycle alight. What is happening in Ogoniland? Is it peaceful?
Yes, interesting. We see a lot of positive things happening in Ogoniland today, and these are dividends from the effort of their previous leaders to fight injustice and oppression. I think in response to the environmental degradation in Ogoniland caused by oil production activities, the government established a project under the Federal Ministry of Environment known as HYPREP. HYPREP stands for Hydrocarbon Pollution and Remediation Project. This was in 2016. And basically, what HYPREP does is the investigation, mapping, and evaluation of hydrocarbon polluted communities, then the implementation of the recommendations of the UNEP report on restoration of Ogoniland is part of their remit also, and then they're undertaking comprehensive assessment and mapping of all environmental issues associated with hydrocarbon pollution in collaboration with NOSTRA, which is a national oil spill detection and response agency.
An awful lot of titles.
Yeah, an awful lot of, yeah. So that's HYPREP for you. But that's on the physical restoration side. But on the people side, which speaks to social and economic development, there's been established a Kisi Trust Fund, which is managed by a local NGO known as Kisi Trust, with trustees drawn from mainly from Ogoniland and some other close by within the region. And this was established in 2009 as part of a U.S. federal court settlement from a lawsuit against Shell by the Ogoni people.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So this trust fund is dedicated to the benefit of Ogoni people.
And that's working at the moment?
Yes, it started, but it's still early days. But they will be focusing on things like education. For example, they are awarding scholarships now to Ogoni indigenes. They're supporting some local health institutions. There are some community development initiatives, as well as women's programs. So that is a case. So we have both the physical environment restoration and then some social and economic development programs all integrated. So for that, I think a lot of positive things are taking place in Ogoniland.
So it's peaceful?
Yes, it is peaceful, relatively peaceful.
Is it safe? Is it safe? Because you hear a lot about insecurity in that area. How does that affect your work in the Niger Delta?
Yeah, well, the issue of insecurity, you will agree with me, has become a national issue now and not just a challenge in the Niger Delta region. And interestingly, what we are seeing now is that the scale of the problem of insecurity in the region is not as high as what we have in other parts of the country.
Wow. Is it better or is it worse?
It's a lot better than it was. Yeah, I mean, the Niger Delta region, apart from the fact that we still have a number of insecurity issues here and there, but
Yeah.
when you compare with a place like the Northeast, North Central, even the Southeast, then you know that what is happening there, it's not a massive problem as compared to other places. I mean, you don't hear about these incessant cases of kidnapping in the Niger Delta region.
Yeah, it's what you used to hear from the Niger Delta. Now it's all pretty quiet.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet, and I think it's because a number of things are happening, and then I believe that the people are watching and waiting to see how things pan out in the nation as a whole. Um, Oil production is proceeding at pace, and I think the oil companies are taking the issues of the environmental degradation seriously. There are still some issues here and there, and then of course most of the oil companies are being very responsible corporate citizens. And what we're also seeing is that many oil exploration and exploitation activities has been shifted offshore.
Well, that sort of leads me into my next question, which is, I mean, all these oil companies are divesting of their onshore activities. Is this trend accelerating? And I think you're suggesting yes. So how is that going to affect your NGO funder model?
Okay. No, I will say this. Some of the oil companies have divested already
Yeah.
from onshore activities, while a few are divesting now, and maybe some others will divest in the future.
Yeah.
But is this trend really accelerating? In my view, I would say that that's not the case. It's not that it is accelerating. We've witnessed, a number of instances. So, because there is no evidence to suggest that we are witnessing an increased rate of divestment. As
Right.
you are aware, the strategic investments in this sector are based on ongoing risk assessment, both social risks and business risks. These are the underlying drivers of any decision regarding onshore exploration and exploitation of oil. And coming to our funding model, whatever happens to our funding is not dependent on the dichotomy of offshore versus
Or
onshore
onshore.
activities.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the end, what matters is the performance of the market for crude oil and gas.
Right.
For example, when there was a downturn in the price of crude oil in 2019, naturally our funding for the current phase, because we get funded in 5-year cycles. So
Right.
interestingly, we were coming to the end of our second phase or our second funding cycle in 2019, and decisions have to be made. So the funding for this current 5-year cycle went down from the previous levels. And this is quite understandable. When the income of a major donor is down, then you expect that, what we get will go down.
Yeah.
And then when there's an increase, a boom in the market in future, we expect naturally
Your fortunes get
there will be
better
a
as well.
commensurate
Yeah.
increase in the funding. Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think has been the biggest challenge with providing solutions in the Niger Delta? Because I mean, I'm hearing a lot of good news. What has been the main problem? And if somebody was running an NGO now, what would you say? Okay, watch out for this. This is what you need to bear in mind.
The biggest challenge? Well, there are a number of challenges that come to mind. For the NGOs themselves, I think the issue of funding
Right.
is a major one.
Right.
How do you get funding for your programs on a sustained basis to enable you design and implement developmental programs in the Niger Delta region?
Yeah.
The other thing is the issue of partnerships. One will expect that governments in the region, because I mean, the job of government is to develop the land and create wealth from the people.
I think you've taken the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say, you're looking at funding, and you're being funded by oil companies.
Yeah.
What about the government of the people? What part do they play?
The government has been slow in responding,
Yeah.
and it will interest you to know that, because we get funded by the oil company, Chevron, whenever we go to talk to government, the state governments about partnership, the expectation is that the PIN will put all the money into the kitty, to run those programs. So I think our subnational governments need to be serious about development. They need to put the money where the mouth is, so that they are investing in the development of their states. So we haven't witnessed a massive scale of funding from the state government. I think we can only record an instance where the state government put some money into a little project. In fact, it's a very tiny project, which is about organizational diagnostic review of the state's oil producing areas development commission, and I'm speaking of Ondo State, and they covered the cost of that assignment. We just did a review, of the agency, and then we recommended some performance improvement measures, to make them more effective, to make in the realization of their mandate in the all two LGs that produce oil in the state.
So really, the government is sort of like lagging behind a bit on the funding front.
That is correct.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that is correct.
I'm not saying anything else. So what would you say is the future for the Niger Delta? Bright, iffy, perhaps?
From what I'm saying, I'm a firm believer in the resilience and capacity of the people of the Niger Delta to turn things around in the region. So for me, the future is very bright. I see a very bright future for the region.
Well, sort of linked to the price of oil, or irrespective of the price of oil?
Irrespective of the price of oil. We can hasten that rate of progress through the quality of leadership in the region.
Yeah.
When we have people who will focus more on the collective interest as opposed to their self-interest in leadership positions, either at the community level, the state or regional level, I think development will pick up pace and proceed at an amazing speed in the region. So the future is bright.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say, should we say the past has been imperfect, the future is conditional on what you've just mentioned?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
Because we can't keep doing things the same way and expect different results.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also it's not sustainable, is it? You can't keep doing the same thing, and something's got to give at some point, and it nearly did give at some point.
You are absolutely right.
So
you're absolutely right. So that's what's led us to where we're at now. It's the quality of the leadership.
I'm just so grateful for people like you who doing verifiable, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's verifiable, it's quantifiable.
Yes.
Stuff that people can actually touch.
Yes.
Just before the recording started, we're talking about your youth empowerment program, because I just didn't want to hear about another youth empowerment program that you couldn't actually see. And I looked at your website and I thought, oh wow, this is real. And they get certification for the skills that they're learning, like the people in the building trade, they get certificates from the NIB. And I thought, wow, that is impressive. So yeah, well done you. I'm really grateful. But before we go, this is the bit you probably won't like. I'm going to ask you just 1 or 2 questions, maybe 4 questions about you, where I get to know a little bit about you. So it's going to be super quick.
All right.
Because we're running out of time. Okay. So what is the one thing on your bucket list? What would you like to do before you kick the bucket?
I think travel is something that really fascinates me. So I think travel to Australia and New Zealand, that far of the globe, is
that's far.
On my bucket list.
Yeah, that's like a 24-hour or 48-hour effort.
Yes, it's going to be a different kind of experience. Yes, so that's on my bucket list.
Okay. Yeah. And so if you weren't doing what you're doing, what would be your dream job? There's the one job you still want to do. If they said, what would you ideally like to do if you're not doing what you're doing? Because I think you love what you're doing, but what would be your
Yes,
ideal
I do
dream
love
job?
what I'm doing, but the job that I would want to do is possibly a teacher
Oh,
at
wow.
the university level
Yeah, a
because
professor.
I like imparting knowledge to
Oh,
others.
that's good.
Maybe perhaps I come from a background. My family, both my parents were teachers. My dad is late now, but my
No wonder you got that PhD.
oh yes, they kept encouraging us to go to school.
You
Yeah.
know,
And
no,
at
you
a
can't
very
stop at
tender
just
age as
masters. Now you
well.
have to go one step
So
further.
yes, perhaps I should have been a university professor. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm impressed. So what are you reading at the moment? What books are you reading? Or book are you reading?
I'm reading a very, very interesting book by two authors. It's a joint authorship, Fola Fagbule and Feyi Fawemi. And the title
Right,
is Formation, which is the
right.
story of the making of Nigeria from the
Gosh.
jihad days to amalgamations. Quite interesting. I mean, if
No.
one is
Does it
interested in the
cover Usman Danfodio and Afonja
absolutely,
and all
yeah,
these people?
you're correct. I mean, that's
Wow.
we started painting the journey to nationhood of Nigeria. It's
Well,
quite
thank you for
interesting.
bringing that to my attention. I'm definitely going to look for it.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's a
and
lot
then,
about the slave trade as well in it.
gosh, because that's one thing we don't get in schools nowadays, enough of African history and how it came to be.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So I can send you the details,
Please do.
yeah, and then you can get it for yourself. Yeah,
And we're going to put it on our show notes so that people
right.
can check it out.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting read.
No, it sounds fascinating. So what are you
Right.
listening to music-wise?
I
What's your
listen
current
to a
favorite song?
range of I listen to a range of music, but one of my favorite songs it's by Robert Flack,
Oh, wow.
"Killing Me
Old
Softly"
school.
with his song. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm an old
killing
man.
me
Yeah. So
softly with
yeah,
this
for those of us
song.
that are above 60
Yes,
years of
so
age, so that's what we listen to. You
I
know.
heard he
Uh,
sang
yeah.
a good song.
Oh
I love
yes,
that song.
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's really good. It's really good.
It's a
I like
classic.
Roberta
Yeah.
Flack a lot. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So describe yourself in 3 words.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That is
And I'm always
quite
telling people, forget
interesting.
modesty, just tell me.
I would say dependable,
Right?
determined,
Mm-hmm.
and organized.
Those sound like husband material, eh?
Yes,
But it's
yes.
fantastic. I mean, if you were going to write, okay, what is the ideal family man? That is good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
this is the bit that people really don't like. That is where you have to tell me a joke. I hope you're
Ah,
ready.
well, I think of one,
Okay,
and
excellent.
yeah.
I'm poised. I'm so waiting for this.
Okay, so I remember when I was working in a training institute, and I remember our director then telling us this joke is quite interesting. It's about one old man in a rural community, a village setting
Yeah.
in Nigeria, who was very wicked and miserly, and people didn't really like him at all. He was a troublemaker. So, and more importantly, he was a farmer. And in this village, there was a herbalist and, a rainmaker also.
Yes.
And then you know that the nature of agriculture that we practice is dependent
On
on
the
the
range.
rainfall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it so happened that this particular year there was no rain, and all crops were dying off, and so other farmers were going to see the rainmaker to help them make the charm for rain to fall. So some that are generous and went to the rainmaker with fat goats, and then there'll be plenty of rainfall. So our man, our friend, went with, I told you it's very much with the smallest goat that you can think of. So went to the rainmaker, and the rain fell, but very
A small amount
few,
of rain.
minute droplets of rainfall. So he was furious and went to confront the
The
rainmaker.
rainmaker.
So what the hell did you do? Others are getting big amount of
A
rainfall.
deluge of rain, and I got just a sprinkling.
And see what you've done. See what you've done to my farm. And so the rainmaker said, "Well, you caused it. So if you have big goat, big rain." Small goat,
Small rain.
So what you put in is what you get out.
Absolutely. Rubbish in, rubbish out.
So it was fun. Yeah.
I hope he learned his lesson for the next one.
I believe so.
I hope so. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Akala. Thank you for telling us about the Niger Delta and telling us what is actually happening on the ground, and giving us hope that things can get better and are getting better. And in fact, are better. Things are better, much better. Thank you. And tell can you tell them how to get hold of you? If anybody wants to get in touch. Anybody interested in your work, how do they get in touch with you?
Okay, very well then. Thanks, Shade. It's been nice talking to you. And for whoever wants to get in touch with me, I am based in Abuja, and you can always reach me via email. And my email address is Dara is DARA at pintfoundation.org. So that's the easiest and safest way to get in touch with me. And then, of course, I make it a point of duty to respond to all emails that I get.
Well, I can vouch for that, because you always respond. That's why I said you're organized, you're reliable, dependable. Yeah, no, thank you.
I try to do my best.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're a star. I'm really, really, really impressed. And thank you for coming. And before you go, listeners, make sure you subscribe, you share, and then you give us a 5-star rating. Take care. Bye.